the prefix. We can get rid of square brackets and semicolons. And finally we can do this, and we can get to like shorter code. How do we get here? Like, what are the things that make Swift Swift? Small runtime. They really made sure that it's small and flexible, and they need it so they can deploy it with every single app that you will ship in the next month, because no one has Swift, and they made sure that you can run it on iOS 7, for example, just by bundling the runtime with the application. It's statically compiled. There is no just-in-time, Java nonsense, and there is no garbage collection, and they kind of bring it as a cool thing when it's like just don't do that. There is no legacy. They didn't come from C background, so they were free to implement like integers as structs, like booleans as not as definition of integers, so they didn't have to deal with all this nonsense. They have Arc kind of system baked into the language, so there is like all this goodness of automatic memory management. There is multi-threading built into language. No, it's not built into language. It's for you to take care of. Like, you never do that.
One exception.
Which is wait, was it like initialization of getter?
Lazy.
No.
This patch ones behind the scene. Lazy version class.
Okay. So maybe he's right.
Not in class.
Okay. So then KVO, like key value observing. Ish. Like, it's not really key value observing. You can do things on properties that will notify you about like something will happen, did happen, like the things that you love so much about Objective-C, like will do something, did do something. You get that. Then there is function overloading, and that's a really nice thing to me, because you get to do those kind of things. You have a function that takes several different types of arguments depending on your mood, and that allows us to work with operators, for example, like we just spoke about it. And then you have operators overloading. So what is operator? Sorry, that already was before. Then there are typed collections, which is a nice thing. You get to infer type from collections, and it's a really compiler feature. So like if you will manage to put something during the runtime, it pretty much will explode later on. But like compiler will complain, so you will not compile the code that is like run in advance. So you have like all sorts of mappings, for example, like what you just said about types. You get to map, for example, dictionary. You can have Boolean as a key, which is not like really future-proof because you have only two values to map to. But then again, like you get strings and like you can put numbers in there. It's kind of obvious. You get optional chaining, which is a good thing because optionals with like all these question marks and like explicit unwrapping, this guy will just produce nil. So it's pretty much like the question earlier, is it safe to call something that nils? This is your kind of answer, like you get to do these kind of things. You have mutable and immutable collections, and that's like, by default, collection is mutable as long as you define it with var, not let. Let makes it a constant, and you cannot append. Compiler will complain. The downside is that if you define it by calling it let, like a constant, right, and then you just pass it to another guy who is var, another guy can mutate it. So like to me it's a bit odd. I'm not sure like what to make out of it. What?
Can you mutate it?
Yes, funny enough, I just tried Playground this morning, and like either Playground is completely broken as we just saw, or it's just, I don't know.
Maybe the second one creates a copy. Probably inf equals inf with the big I.
You actually might be right. That would make sense. Good. You see, that's why I come to meetups, because you get to learn something. Then you have switch statements, and again, thanks to Nissan for stealing my bread. You get a lot of like cool matching, and those are just the primitive ones. Again, there are like way more complicated things to do with this. You get a lot of just nice synthetic kind of goodness, like last closures that are just like outside of the functions. Emoji icons in variable names. We all wanted it, okay? we did. Yes, come on, be honest with yourself. But again, there is no cat operator. I'm disappointed. Then this thing is really cool. Okay, those are like optional booleans. Okay, so imagine that you have boolean that is optional. So you finally get this like third state for the boolean, which is like, I don't know. Okay, and then there's some crazy stuff about runtime, and that's if you want to go like second base. Like it's like really hardcore stuff. Like you have binaries that are compatible with Objective-C because they have to take care of that because they want everyone to prioritize stuff, right? So like you kind of can like just fire your Hopper disassembler, if anyone knows what I'm talking about. You can fire that, you can inspect a couple of methods, then you will get into like unbearable kind of blob of data that you will not be able to decompile. There are no dynamic lookups. There is no method forwarding, nothing like NS proxies in Objective-C, if you know what I'm talking about. You just get like several tables which represents ISA classes, and you just like go through methods, and there is another thing which is called protocol witness table, and that's the same thing for protocols. So basically it just lists the methods that your class can reply to. They do a lot of like really clever optimization. If you mark things as final, if your class doesn't have any subclasses, they just like do a lot of cool optimization on the previous thing. So they kind of like speed up things, and that's like really nice stuff. There is no meta programming, and like people underestimate this stuff, but like say goodbye to Mantle. Like there is no deserialization on the fly. There is no like inferring like what kind of properties does this class have, or how many classes does this class have in, I don't know, as superclass, whatever. It's no, get out, no, you're wrong. Anyway, this thing like pisses me off because I really like that's my favorite thing about Objective-C, like just runtime, meta programming, no one cares about it, whatever. This is really cool. Okay, this is uniqueness. Basically, your code is isolated to your module. So like as soon as you create framework or target or application or whatever, it's sealed. So you can have the same, like that's why we don't need prefixes anymore, except for operators. Because like it's sealed to your module, you get to call it whatever you want. You can call like module.function name, module.class, whatever, you will be fine. Name mangling, who came from C++ background? Yeah. So like basically that creates a unique name when it's building the binary. It creates a unique name from like module, class name, types, like a lot of stuff. And you get names like this, which you will really love to see when you're debugging, but thank God there is like exe runs with demangle. You pass this unbearable thing and it spits back, something a bit more bearable. Really cool stuff. We don't need dwarfs anymore to figure out what symbols are, being passed to when you get crashed, right? So compiler gets directly kind of information from your modules, which is kind of cool. And I want to leave you with this beautiful code that I found yesterday in 404, session 404. Basically, you take factorial, okay, and instead of calculating the same values all over again, because you get to calculate them like several times, you just build this function with generics and stuff, right? And it's like really cool. So like memorize it and use it. It's awesome. And stop reading NS Hipster and go to the forums. That's where all the cool kids are, because like history is happening there. Okay, that's it. Bye.